Hi, I'm Patrick Anderson, and this is the Mach-E vlog. Today we're going to go over 3 different methods of planning an EV road trip in your Mustang Mach-E. So let's get started. Over the past couple of months, Liv and I have taken some road trips in our Mustang Mach-E. We've taken some road trips around Colorado, down to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and out to San Diego, California. Back when I drove my gas car, I would still plan out a road trip, but I would just basically, put in Google Maps, find the route that I was going to go, and that's pretty much it. I would find the gas stations, just wherever I could along the way. With the Mach-E or any electric vehicle, it pays to plan out where your charging stops are going to be at. Today, I'll show you the 3 different methods that I've been using to plan out my road trips. You can choose to use any of these methods on your own or, mix and match like I have done in my own road trips. The easiest and most obvious method is just to use the car's built-in navigation system that's part of Ford Sync. I use this method extensively on our road trip to San Diego. To plan out your route in the Mach-E, you literally just go to the navigation system and enter your destination. Once you hit go, if you have the option turned on, it will add charging stops for you.
Okay, so let's see how easy it is to program a trip in the Mach-E. And I got to blur out some of this just because it's showing our home and some addresses, but just click where to, and I'm going to do recents just because it's easier for demo purposes. And we'll select Beaver, Utah, just because that's an example that I've used recently. And there it is. It already has the route. But if you notice this blue line here, that's the extent of the range that we have in the Mach-E that the car thinks we have. But Beaver is way further than that. So if I hit go, it's adding charging stops. We hit details. And then there it is. That's as simple as it can be for doing a route and then having the car add the charging stops, including like telling me that I'll need to charge for 20 minutes to get up to 43% at the first one. If I hit details, it'll tell me a little bit about the charging station. The one thing that it does not have, if you'll notice, it doesn't tell me which city these are in. I know that one is in Glenwood Springs. This is something that sort of bugged me. If you've seen on our road trip videos, I've sort of mentioned that a couple of times. It's sort of frustrating that it's not there, but it's super easy to do a route very quickly and easily in the car. It's ready to go, and that's all there is to it.
The biggest advantage to using this method is just how easy it is. You literally just put in your destination and the car will handle the routing for you. The one drawback of using this method is that it doesn't really let you plan ahead. So it's basically expecting that you're going to get in the car, route your trip, and just go. And if you're like me, you might want to look ahead to see where you might want to stop for lunch or stay overnight, those type of things. And if that's the case, there is a way that you can plan your trip out ahead of time and do some of that extra planning. 2 of the tools that I use for that, one is FordPass and the other is called A Better Route Planner, which is a website and app that you can use on your iPhone or Android phone. Let's start with FordPass first. To use FordPass, you just click on the icon on your phone. Then you want to go to Map down at the bottom. Find the Trip Planner. And it'll have old trips if you have those already in there, but we'll create a new one. We'll go to Cedar City since we just went there on a trip. And now it is routing and planning it out. And look at that, there are 4 charging stops, 2 in Colorado and 2 in Utah. I can click here and it'll show me the exact details, and right now my car is at 77% charge, so it's starting with that as what it thinks I have. And then it tells me I'll arrive in Glenwood Springs, Colorado with 16% charge, and it wants me to charge for 17 minutes to 42%. And then the next stop would be in Grand Junction, where it wants me to charge from 10% up to 47%, and it estimates that'll take 23 minutes, and that's it. So like, it has all the details for the entire trip. Tells me that there's about 10 hours and 43 minutes for the entire trip, and that the total charge time is about 1 hour and 38 minutes. But if I go back, if I want to change some of those default settings, so what I could do is have it assume that I'm going to leave at, for example, 100% charge. And then I have 3 options here: fastest route, shortest route, and eco route. More than likely, you'll probably want to keep it on fastest route. That's sticking on the interstate. Shortest route might be, the exact shortest route, no matter how long it'll take you. And then eco route is probably going to avoid freeways if it can, because it's more efficient not to drive at highway speeds. But for most of us, I'm pretty sure we want to just keep it on fastest route. You can also change your start time. So let's change it to a Saturday at 8 a.m. or 8:10 a.m. That's good enough. You're always running 10 minutes late, right? And then if I hit save, now it reprograms the route with the new assumptions and gives me a more realistic time of, how long it'll be until I get there. Instead of 11 o'clock at night, it's now 6:40. And you'll see now, my first stop is where I have the most significant change. So I think it was arriving at 16%. Now, because I would be leaving at 100%, I would arrive in Glenwood Springs at 39%, charge for 10 minutes up to 54%. But then after that, everything sort of, gets back to what it was previously. So quick and easy and fairly simple. Once I hit save trip, it's going to send it over to the car. And of course, it gives you some warnings that things could change based on road conditions, weather will affect things. So I hit OK, and it actually just sent that over to the car.
So this is what it looks like in the car. It says 1 new trip has been received. I can hit ignore, and then it'll go into my saved trips, but I'll hit view trip. And now you can see it's loading up the trip that we were on, that we were just calculating. And if I hit go.
Obey traffic laws, be alert, and use voice commands while driving.
It's basically taking that trip that I've already programmed in, using the most current traffic data as well as what state of charge the car is at. And it's routed to be so I can go ahead and get started on that trip if I wanted to.
As you can see, FordPass is pretty darn easy to use. It gives you some basic options and some good details about your route before you even get started. Now to the other option that I mentioned, a better route planner. I'll show you on the website just because it's easier and you'll be able to see it better. But basically you can do the same thing whether it's on the website or in the app that's on your phone. Okay, so here is the website, a better route planner. The first thing you want to do is check your settings. And you want to, of course, make sure that it has the correct car model. So, of course, I have a Mustang Mach-E extended range all-wheel drive. It says Alpha right now because they only have preliminary data, but that should work for our purposes here and for planning. The next option is your departure state of charge. If you're like me, you want to charge to 100% before you leave on a trip. The next option is reference consumption, and this is based off of what Ford is estimating that the Mach-E will consume energy-wise, and if you want, you can adjust that up or down if you want to be more or less conservative. The next option is charging stops. By default, it's just set up for quickest arrival, so we'll use it like that. If you want, you can put shorter legs or fewer stops and adjust, just like on a sliding scale. And it's sort of self-explanatory, but fewer stops will mean that you will charge to higher levels and take more time at the charging stops, but you'll have fewer stops, of course. There's some options under batteries and chargers. you can ignore some of these. So for example, if you wanted to ignore certain networks, like if you don't like EVgo because they're usually expensive, you could type something like that in. I just usually leave it at the default. This is a new setting that they just added, minimum charger stalls. This could be useful, for example, like when I was doing the run from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, one of the stops, the car programmed me to stop at a rest area and they had one stall. So if that stall is full, you just have to wait until a charger is available. But if you go in here and say like, we're going to require a minimum of 4 charger stalls, that'll prevent that from even showing up on a route plan. So that's something that's new and something that I'm going to probably use a lot in the future when I'm doing my planning. Destination arrival, state of charge. This means like when you get to the endpoint, how high of a charge do you want to be at? Now, a lot of times, like if I'm coming home, I could leave that at 10% or even lower, like 5%. When I was going to San Diego, for example, I was going to a place that did not have charging at my destination. So I wanted that to be higher, so I changed it to 15%. For the most part, I leave that at 10%. Same thing with charger arrival. 10% is usually good. If you're worried about wind or rain or going through mountains or something like that that could severely affect your range, you might want to put that a little bit higher. And what that's doing is making sure like when you come into the station, you should have 10% buffer left. So like on the Mach-E with a 270 mile EPA range, a 10% buffer means about 27 miles of extra range. The next one is, this is very sort of critical on the Mach-E because at 80%, the Mach-E's charging rate will drop from about 80 kilowatts down to 11, 12, maybe 13 kilowatts, which is significantly slower, which means your charging session will take a lot longer once it gets above 80%. So unless you absolutely need to go above 80%, I would always leave that at 80% for the Mach-E. Battery degradation, hopefully we don't have to worry about this. So we could even set that at 0 for right now. If you want to be safe, you can leave it at 5%. And what that means is like, in a year or two, your battery and your range may not be quite as good as it is right now. We don't have any data on how much the battery in the Mach-E is going to degrade over time. Hopefully it won't be significant. Hopefully it won't be that big of a deal, but that's just something that other EV owners have used and planned for in the past. Charging overhead is simply like how much extra time should we allocate for a charging stop? So that's just including, getting out, plugging in, getting back into the car, maybe, adding a bathroom break if you have to move the car or anything like that. 5 minutes seems pretty reasonable for me for most of the stops. And then down in speed, if you're planning for a trip like right now, you can turn on real-time traffic and that can be useful. Reference speed means like how fast are you going to go in reference to the speed limit. So if you want to go just slightly over the speed limit, like a lot of people do, you can change that to like 105%. And that's crucial in an EV because that affects your efficiency and of course the time of travel. So it's adapting using the numbers that you're putting in there. In maximum speed, you may, for example, like going through Utah, the speed limit is 80. So you may say like, most of the time I'll go slightly over the speed limit, but I don't want to go any faster than 75 because it'll affect efficiency. Or you could just leave it at 80, for example. And the next one is just adjust speed. That will allow the planner to modify your speed if it thinks it's more efficient to do your route by lowering the speed slightly. So for example, like going from here to Cedar City, Utah, there may be instances where the route planner wants to lower your speed to 75 miles per hour, even though the speed limit's 80, because it thinks it'll be more efficient for you to do that based on like, if you go to faster speed, you're going to burn more energy. So then you'll need longer at the charging stop. If you went slightly slower, you could save that energy and then your charging stop would be faster. So that's where the thinking with that comes along. I usually leave that off unless there is like a stretch of road where it looks like it's going to be cutting it very close. And then we won't go into too much of this extra stuff, road conditions, avoiding highways or ferries, tolls, those type of things. You can sort of figure that out on your own. Another thing that affects EV efficiency, of course, is weight. And I usually just leave that at 0 unless it's specifically going to be like if I were going to have like 4 or 5 people in the car plus some heavy luggage or the heavy bicycle that Liv uses because it has like a battery, then I might add a couple 100 pounds there just so that my planning is more accurate. So we'll go back and now let's plan just a sample route. And I've mentioned like we went to Cedar City, Utah on our last road trip. That was where we stayed the first night. So just type in the destination, hit the big blue button, and there it found the route and added in charging stops. So from where I'm at now here in Denver, it added 2 charging stops in Colorado, 2 charging stops in Utah, and then arriving at the destination. And you can see here, it gives you the exact details. So for example, this one says arrive at 29% in Glenwood Springs. That would be this first one here. And then charge for 10 minutes up to 45%. And if you click on one of the chargers, it will bring up a lot more information. So it'll tell you like if there's chargers that are down. It looks like there's 2 chargers that are down at this location. But it also gives you information about restaurants that are nearby. So there's a Asian Bistro 850 feet from the charger. It'll tell you there's different shopping that's very close by. Marshall's Natural Grocers is 1,500 feet away. And then also like recreation activity. We'll go back out to the trip summary. That's basically it for, like a quick way of planning a route in a Better Route Planner. With all those features, you can see why a Better Route Planner is one of my favorite tools for planning an EV road trip, but it does have some drawbacks. For starters, if you want to use it in your car via Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you have to have a subscription to the premium version, which is, I believe, starts at about $5 per month. That subscription is also needed if you want to use some of the advanced features like having it include real-time traffic, weather, or charger availability. I should also mention that the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay versions of a Better Route Planner are still in their early stages. They're a bit rough right now, and they don't have all of the features and bells and whistles that you would hope to have in an EV navigation system. One of the biggest problems right now is that the implementation in Android Auto and Apple CarPlay for a Better Route Planner can't communicate with the car for getting the state of charge of the battery. So it's not updating dynamically as you're driving to adjust your route or your charging stops. Every time you stop, you need to recalculate and re-input what your state of charge is. So it's a little bit cumbersome for actually using in the car right now, but it is improving rapidly, and they're hoping to get some workarounds for getting that charging data into the app so that it's more useful. That being said, a Better Route Planner is still a great tool. You can still just use the free version for doing your route planning and adding the charging stops, and really it is like one of the ones that I start with when we're looking at going on any EV road trip. So that's it for a quick little demo of the 3 different methods that I've been using to plan an EV road trip. Which one is your favorite? Have you used any other tools to plan an EV road trip? So those are the tools that I've used so far in planning my EV road trips. Drop a comment below and let me know which one is your favorite, which ones have you used, and if you have any suggestions for other tools that we can use to plan our road trips. If you're curious about how any of our road trips have gone, make sure you check out the link above or down in the description. I have links to our road trips that we've already taken and how well those have gone and how the tools have adapted as we took the road trip. So I think it's all interesting. We can all learn from each other, sharing all of this information about how to plan and how to make an EV fit into our road trips and everyday life. Stay tuned. I will do some deeper dives into a Better Route Planner and other EV planning tools and road trip tips. So make sure you are subscribed, and I'll get those out as soon as possible, as well as more road trip videos, of course. I want to thank you for watching, and if you're planning a EV road trip, I hope it goes well, that the charging is quick and easy, and that you get there safely. Have a great day.